Brothers, you might find this video's content to be worldview shattering, but this is the bloody truth of the global financial market. Look at the data. Currently, the most important oil artery in the world, the Strait of Hormuz, has seen its daily flow of supertankers forcibly choked from 120 ships down to just 30, a staggering 75% plunge in capacity. Logically, with such a major geopolitical black swan event, cutting off the crude oil supply lifeline, oil prices should have long since broken loose and soared to 130, or even the historic high of 150 USD. Right? Wrong. The weirdest thing is, right here, the current WTI US crude oil hasn't collapsed. Instead, it is incredibly precise, firmly holding around 98 USD. It can't fall, but it definitely hasn't soared to ridiculously high levels either. What is even weirder, Iran, which controls the strait and publicly vowed to choke the world's energy throat, is actually actively releasing ships from some countries. Meanwhile, America, which maintains world order and vows daily to bring down Iran, ended up in a tie in the House of Representatives. They are in no rush to actually act. Welcome back to First Financial Logic. I am Brother Zhao. Don't be fooled by the superficial articles about fighting and killing in the news. Today, Brother Zhao will tell you the trump card. These two avowed enemies are objectively forming an extremely sophisticated cooperation. They are working together to manipulate global oil prices to a level where both sides can make a fortune. Iran, relying on the selective rite of passage through the strait, is actively wooing Western allies and earning geopolitical chips. The US, with 98 USD oil, sees its homegrown energy tycoons raking in global export orders. This is definitely not a street stall conspiracy theory. It is a more cost-effective and stable pattern of interest-based game theory than actual conflict. Only if you truly understand the underlying logic of this confrontation as collusion, can you understand the tragic wash out in the financial markets these past few days. Only then can you understand why gold, known as the king of safe havens, has suffered a tragic 4-day drop in a row, hitting 4,571 on the latest board today, May 15th. You will also be able to understand the Sino-US Beijing summit, which affects the lifeblood of global assets, what chips will be negotiated under the table to determine the life and death of your account. In this issue, Brother Zhao won't talk about emotions, only objective hard logic. Let's be the bad guys and thoroughly dismantle the interest structure behind the Strait of Hormuz. If you want to save your principal in the coming storm, turn off push notifications and prick up your ears for the next few dozen minutes. Brother Zhao will give you a God perspective to see how this grand game is simultaneously kidnapping your gold, energy, and stock holdings. Let's first debunk the biggest cognitive superstition on the whole network. What is Schrödinger's door crack? Look at the map. This is the Strait of Hormuz, the pacemaker of global energy. Many people watching short video news think Iran has completely sealed it off. That's completely wrong. You need to know that in the international game, a total seal is called flipping the table. That would mean not a single drop of oil could get out of the Persian Gulf, and the global economy would instantly go into shock. If they really dared to do that, by tomorrow morning, the world's fleets would gather here to fight to the death. So what is the real data right now? Usually 120 supertankers can pass through here comfortably every day. Now that number has been forcibly stuck to around 30, a staggering 75% drop. Think about it with common sense. If they really wanted to fight, why not drop to zero? Why keep these 30 ships? What do we call this in our daily business logic? It's called extreme hunger marketing, or the nightclub VIP access control rule. Imagine a scene, one of the hottest nightclubs in the world, where 120 people usually enter every day freely. Now the security guard suddenly raises the cordon and says at the door, "Sorry, the venue is limited today, only 30 are allowed in." Who gets to enter and who doesn't? The logic behind this is huge. It is definitely not on a first-come, first-served basis. This is the ultimate realization of power and profit. A few days ago, Brother Zhao said in the circle that this is called limited viewership of accuracy, and someone argued with me saying, "Brother Zhao, you are engaging in conspiracy theories again." And what happens? The slap in the face came too fast. Just 2 days ago, May 13th, the official government stopped pretending and showed their hand. The Iranian parliament officially submitted a red-headed document with a very fancy name, Intelligent Management of the Strait of Hormuz. Let's analyze this term. What is intelligent management? In plain language, it is not an indiscriminate blow This is a selective toll gate that rewards the compliant and eliminates the defiant. Let's use what's really happening in the Strait these days to verify this. This plot is 10 times more magical than a Hollywood blockbuster. Just in the last few days, French merchant ships, large tankers linked to Japan, and a giant liquefied natural gas ship in Qatar called the Mizum have passed comfortably through the strait, swaggering across. Not only were they not stopped, they even got rid of invisible tolls. However, everyone pay attention to this. But turn your head, also on the 13th, a cargo ship flying an Indian flag was locked directly by the drones in the sky during the voyage, bombed, and sunk on the spot. Another giant merchant ship named Hui Chuan was directly intercepted by armed personnel, air-dropped, and detained on the spot. Do you understand? This is not blindfolded beating at all, this is using an extremely precise diplomatic scalpel to forcibly cut the global geopolitical camp. There must be a smart brother who will ask, Brother Zhao, why did Iran let go of the Japanese ship? Isn't Japan America's strongest ally in the Asia-Pacific region? Good question, because this trick is too toxic and too clever. You go and look up the data from the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. Japan not only relies on the Middle East for 95% of its crude oil, but what is even worse, Japan's fine chemical industry relies heavily on a basic raw material shipped from here. Naphtha. Naphtha is known in the industry as the mother of chemical industry. Without it, Japan can't extract high-purity specialty resins and solvents, and these things are the core formula for manufacturing high-end photoresists for global semiconductors. Japanese photoresists account for nearly 80% of the global market share. As long as chemical plants in Japan shut down due to oil shortages, it doesn't matter if it is Silicon Valley or a chip foundry in Asia, the global chip supply chain goes into shock. Do you understand this closed-loop logic? Iran is ostensibly stuck with a barrel of black oil, but in fact, by pinching Japanese naphtha, one hand has directly pinched the lifeblood of the global technology circle. Iran is using 2 cargoes of free crude oil to offer VIP death-free gold medals to America's hardcore allies, forcing Japan to secretly communicate with itself, forcefully putting a huge hole in America's allies' defense system. The door crack of this strait is their top political ATM, and an excellent geopolitical lever. How could you think he could be willing to lock it up, brothers? That is it. If you think the set of underlying logic that Brother Zhao dismantled today is hard, core enough, subversive enough, and helped you clear the smoke bombs in the news, please use your rich hand to like the video. Your likes and support are the driving force for Brother Zhao to continue to output. Like it. And let's move on to the more explosive Federal Reserve life and death game. Speaking of which, the biggest question in our logical chain comes, since Iran is frantically testing the bottom line, even threatening the West with the life of photoresists. Why did America, the world's police, become the king of mouth this time? Just protest without doing anything. A few days ago, the U.S. House of Representatives held a vote on whether to take substantive action to limit the war, and unbelievably through a 212 to 212 absolute tie, not by one vote, just stuck in a draw. Brothers, always remember Brother Zhao's words to save your life in the financial market. America has never been alone, not monolithic. It is essentially a system composed of different large capital and a joint stock company established by a large consortium. Here's the thing. The 2 core shareholders of this company, Texas Energy Gang and Silicon Valley Tech Gang, are fighting for their own survival and huge share of the spoils, pulling hair in a conference room in Washington. Let's take apart character first, the Texas Energy Gang who sells umbrellas. Describe their current state in 4 words: party all night. Many people have a misunderstanding, thinking the United States is a purely oil importing country. Wrong. The United States is already one of the largest oil producers in the world. The latest report from the Dallas Federal Reserve revealed that the comprehensive cost of preserving a barrel of shale oil in the United States is around $66. Look at the current disk. Because of the access control of these 30 ships, global crude oil supplies are choked, and WTI crude oil prices were held steady at $98. Let's do this elementary school math account. 98 minus 66 equals $32 in net profit. $98 for this location is called the golden harvest position in capitalist circles. Think about how horrible the calculations of these bosses are. What if oil prices really hit $150? That would send the global economy into an instant shock. People couldn't even drive, and demand would be totally destroyed. By then, inflation would drive the US government crazy. Even if the US military doesn't want to, we must also send aircraft carriers to the Persian Gulf immediately. This fire is really out of control. But what if it was 98 USD? That number is art. It is not high enough to cause worldwide outrage, forcing the US military to go. And it is a perfect fit for Texas's old money capital, making over 30 USD a barrel of oil lying comfortably in massive profits. So they don't need record oil prices at all. They only need to use the access control of these 30 ships to boil oil like a frog in warm water, keeping it stuck at 98 USD for dessert. As long as the Middle East maintains this deadly friction, they can feed on blood forever. How could they possibly agree to go to the Middle East to put out fires? However, there are always two sides to a coin. The capital of Texas is partying every night in this 98 USD warm water district. On the other side is character B, the Silicon Valley tech guy who sells coffee. But frogs are being boiled in warm water and about to jump off the building. Energy helps eat meat, who will be beaten. Tech gang gets beat up. Why is that? Although 98 USD did not cause the global economy to crash immediately, this kind of high oil price hub that cannot come down for a long time cuts like a blunt knife, letting the transportation cost, the bread and milk in the supermarket are all rising, directly leading to the resurgence of global inflation. Inflation just stays there. The Federal Reserve will never dare to announce a rate cut. Here comes the big show. And this is also today. The whole network does not have any blogger who can tell you about nuke-level macro. Variables just today, May 15, 2026. A massive earthquake has hit the global macro financial circle. The current Federal Reserve Chairperson Powell officially handed over the scepter today. But he didn't get out of class completely, but a rare choice to remain on the board. At the same time, the U.S. Senate has officially voted to approve the appointment of Kevin Warsh as the new Federal Reserve Chair. Just today, the head of the Federal Reserve has officially handed over the baton and changed coaches. Think about history. How did Paul Volcker fight inflation when he came to power? As the saying goes, a new official takes office with 3 fires. Facing the recent high oil prices approaching the 100 mark, WTI 98 USD, and the inflationary expectations, the new president is trying to make a name for himself on Wall Street and demonstrate their ability to control prices in the United States. The first thing he did when he took office was definitely showing an extremely hawkish stance. I will never let go of high interest rates. So, where does that lead? Let's take a look at the latest CME Group Federal Reserve Watch tool. The market has not only completely given up the idea of cutting interest rates this year, but even bet on the probability that the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates this year to a terrifying 49.7%. For Silicon Valley, it is extinction. Interest is high, risk-free returns skyrocket. All the hot money in the world has been withdrawn to the banks to buy U.S. Treasury bonds. Those who develop AI by borrowing money at low interest rates and the tech giants that sustain high valuations, Apple, Tesla, Nevada, IDEA, the underlying discount rate model collapses directly. Valuation was killed with rivers of blood. So, you see, on the surface, it looks like the ships in the Middle East can't get through, but the truth in the foundation is the life of Silicon Valley and the money of Texas, in a life and death extreme pull before they decide the winner. This scene, I can't stop. Good. It is good to understand the above capital civil war. I understand the new president of the Federal Reserve, the underlying logic of maintaining high interest rates in order to stand strong. We can finally solve the ultimate pain point in the hearts of retail investors on the whole network. These days, the gold in your hands, what kind of hell did you go through? Before decryption, Brother Zhao must smash the brain of many retail investors, which is extremely backward, even toxic nerves. And that is when the cannon goes off. 10,000 gold tails. Many brothers saw the news and said that there was a fight again. Risk aversion is on the head. Buy gold with your eyes closed. I thought it was an iron law. You are wrong. Gold is what? Gold is essentially an iron lump that remains unchanged for thousands of years. It doesn't produce little gold, which means it doesn't earn any interest. Wall Street's top institutions, those fund managers who manipulate tens of billions of dollars, they call it safe haven. It is never a cannon far away in the Middle East. They avoid it is the paper money in your hand that turns into waste paper. Many people think inflation is too high, gold should rise. Brother Zhao told you it was a big mistake because now the Fed has a new hawkish president, Wall Street expectations. He hikes interest rates aggressively to raise nominal interest rates. It will definitely far exceed the rate of inflation. And this leads to one of the most central metrics in finance, 10-year tips skyrocket. Brother Zhao will give you an extremely popular life analogy. Understand this, your macro awareness directly surpasses 99% of leaks. You think of gold as a set of excellent locations, an out-of-print mansion that can never be rented out. Usually when the currency is flooded, everyone thinks it holds its value, buy desperately. However, suddenly one day, the new Fed governor slaps the table and tells you, "Bro, stop buying a house. You deposit your money with me to buy us treasuries. I give you 5% every year risk, free, even the exorbitant interest rate of 6%. Think about this picture. Inflation has kept your out-of-print mansion gold in nominal terms, but the Fed directly drove the risk-free interest rate to an absolute high. One minus on both sides, depositing in the bank, is still a huge profit. On one side is the iron knot that never generates cash flow for you. One side are bank accounts with absolute returns outperforming inflation. As an extremely rational capital boss, what will they do? They would definitely sell the mansion without hesitation, take the cash out to buy his treasuries, and save high interest rates. This interest rate outperforms inflation expectations. That is the ultimate killer that hammered gold to 4,571 these days. The logical chain is very clear. Oil prices push up inflation. Fei inflation forces new president to maintain high interest rates. Fei high risk, free interest. The opportunity cost of holding gold has skyrocketed. Fei institutions are selling gold like crazy to buy us treasuries. There must be brothers who are furious. Brother Zhao, since the high interest logic is so impeccable, does that gold have to fall without a bottom line? Look at today's plate, all the way to 4,571. Not even a decent rebound. Is this out-of-print mansion completely ruined? Brothers, this has touched on the bloodiest part of this market, and that is the core of it. Retail trading is always a panic seen by the naked eye. Trading is always the unknown expectation of tomorrow. Are the top actuaries on Wall Street stupid? They're smarter than anybody. They've done a calculation with a supercomputer. America's Silicon Valley tech capital, plus the old manufacturing industry in Europe that is waiting to be fed. They can't take it. So high interest rates and 98 USD oil prices, their balance sheets have been pushed to the brink. The rabbit is in a hurry and bites. These bosses will definitely go crazy push for comprehensive peace talks in the Persian Gulf. So, what is the smart money on Wall Street doing now? Why are they holding the plate so tightly today? Not even a little rebound. They are using the expectation of interest rate hikes to create extreme panic. When these retail investors looked at the big yin line and were so scared that they cut their flesh with blood, they are quietly opening a bloody mouth in a deep pit near 4,571. Crazy whales up your cheap chips. Their current Platon is just ambush in advance, a black swan named Suddenly Peaceful. In a few days, when you see the news and want to follow up, it is them who pull the shipment. When I give you the chips, when retail investors all over the street are betting on whether it will be completely destroyed, will it cause greater friction? As a mature investors with a global perspective, you need to open a sky eye to your account. You have to be on guard, precisely a sudden peace. Today, I will give you a free preview of the next rich script. Take a small notebook and memorize the key points. This could determine your account earnings in the second half of the year. Now, CEOs of global tech giants, Europe's political mediators, there's a high probability that it is in Oman. In Qatar, extremely secretive closed. Door negotiations are taking place, the parties are frantically exchanging interests. Once one night, news of substantial progress in secret peace talks suddenly broke. Iran's parliament approves easing access restrictions. Daily traffic in the Strait of Hormuz from the current 30 ships to 50 ships, 80 and even back to 120, what chain reaction will happen? Here are the dominoes on the screen. The first domino falls, the physical deadlock in the supply of crude oil is suddenly opened. Now, WTI US crude oil is 98 USD, the high price of 106 USD for Brent. In our commodity futures world, that is called extreme discounting. The price difference of tens of dollars. It is all about the recent panic, a political premium. Once released, it is expected to land. This giant bubble of panic will burst in an instant. Oil prices will experience a cliff-like flash crash without any support. Second domino down. The collapse of oil prices, input global inflationary pressure snaps off. CPI data immediately turned down. Third domino down, inflation dies down. Chairperson Walsh, who had just taken office, immediately had the perfect step from hawk to pigeon. He doesn't need to carry high interest rates anymore. That moment, 32.9% interest rate hike expectations were wiped out in an instant. The market returns to the rate cut orgy, the dollar index plummeted. Last domino, and the most crucial one, the high interest mountain pressing on the golden head, was completely blown up. We just said those who are currently in the deep pit near 4,571 that has been stolen by Wall Street smart money. Gold that has been stolen by Wall Street smart money will be like a spring that is pressed to the bottom. Pull green onions directly on dry land. Open the real King Lord Shenglang, set a new record high that you can't even imagine. The last few minutes, let's get rid of all these big ideas. Brother Zhao will directly give you the practical dry goods instructions. Since it is said that you are responsible for your wallet, we will be responsible to the end. The first category, brothers in gold. If you gritted your teeth and didn't cut your flesh in this tragic four-way fall, Brother Zhao tells you, don't fall before dawn. Hitting 4,571 today is definitely not a bottomless pit. This is institutions pushing the envelope, the sucking pit that forces you to hand over your chips. Long-term logic. Let's be firm, as long as the credit for the paper money is still being spammed, gold is the eternal god. But listen, on the short term, do not fill up high leverage at this position to chase high. We must prevent the shock and washing of the main force. The next strategy is, as long as there is any trace of global signal of increased substantive release of vessels, or the US inflation data cooled slightly, as long as the price of gold hits the hole, buy me in batches with your eyes closed, build a warehouse slowly, that is the golden pit where Wall Street gives you money. The second category, the big brothers who fry crude oil, don't look at WTI crude oil at 98 USD. Now, very hard gas, it is full of fragile political premiums. Never chase too much on the top of the mountain. This is a knife edge licking blood. Once the black swan arrives, the collapse of oil prices was precipitous, unsupported. I don't even have a chance to pull the network cable and escape for you. The most important thing is to save your life. The third category is to do global US stocks and technology ETFs, especially the brothers who keep an eye on Asia Pacific. A shares Fei Hong Kong stocks. Nasdaq's technology stocks. These days, they are overwhelmed by high interest rates. Asia Pacific markets are also under pressure. But now half of the cards in the overall situation have been lifted. The Beijing summit for Tesla executives, Nevada India Apple, we're done here. As long as the benefits under the table are exchanged and fulfilled, the export approval of NVIDIA chips has landed. This is not just a Silicon Valley bash. It is a stunning reversal of the Asian technology supply chain. Once the chip export chain is untied, coupled with lower inflation triggered by falling oil prices, global hot money will pour crazy into the Asia Pacific. At that time, Class A shares, and the core technology of Hong Kong stocks, overseas industry chain, it is bound to be an epic revenge valuation fix. Brother Zhao will give you an exclusive core tracking indicator for the whole network. This is your wealth thermometer for the second half of the year. Brothers, wake up every morning to watch the international news. Never mind how bad the politicians say it. It is all show. You are fixated on an objective data, average daily number of ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Keep an eye on it from the current about 30 ships, the entire recovery process back to 120 before the war. This is the most intuitive signal to judge whether the geopolitical risk premium is receding. Also gold, oil price, a common thermometer for global inflation expectations. Brother Zhao put the words here, for every 10 ships that number increases, it means that there is a part of the war premium priced by the market. And the true rhythm of our gold rally, hidden in this number, in this billions in the global capital game of hundreds of billions of dollars, it is always a fairy fight. Retail investors suffer. If you don't understand the ledger under the table, will only be led by the nose, by superficial news. You will become a prophet on someone else's bill. We ordinary people want to fight back. You have to grow your own brain. The summit is over. Nevada India chips are returning to China. What steps has the United States made under the table? How should I receive the gold? We will continue to dig deeper in the next issue. The last rule, all the deductions mentioned in the video are Brother Zhao's personal cognitive sharing. It does not constitute any specific investment advice. Entering the market is risky. The keys to the deal are in your hands at your own risk. Never fill up the leverage to gamble your life. I am Brother Zhao, righteous, resolutely responsible for every brother's wallet. I think today's issue of deep dry goods is useful to you. Give Brother Zhao a thumbs up. It is strongly recommended that you forward it to those around you who are still blindly trading stocks. Look at the brother who is brainless to buy gold, save their capital. Our next issue, continue to take you to uncover the trump cards of global capital. Be there or be square.